This conference will now be recorded.
Mr. Chair and members, we have reached quorum.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tuesday, October 12th Transportation Policy Body Meeting. I would like to, at this point, welcome everyone to the meeting and call the meeting to order. We'll move on to the new business. Item 2A, I move that we approve the October 12th, 2021 agenda as written. We're going to talk about one item later on, but right now I move that we approve as written. We have a motion and a second with Jack or Jack. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next one, everyone's had an opportunity to look at the September 14th minutes. I move that we approve the September 14th minutes. Do I have a second? Tom seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 2C, Director's Report. I'm going to turn it over to Chad.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Good afternoon, board members. Quick update on today's meeting as well as Unified Planning Work Program tasks that annually, it's an annual program that staff's activities are documented. Just to give you an overview on just functions of the MPO in general, there are three categories all the activities of MPO fall into. One of them is long-range transportation plan activities called MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And two is short-range transportation plan, that is TIP acronym, Transportation Improvement Program. And the third is administrative functions and tasks of the staff that falls under Unified Planning Work Program. The three main documents for your for my reporting to the board members. And then my job is to indicate what action items are falling in what categories, because oftentimes in MPOs, a lot of things happen and things can be many. So categorizing those into three will help in the staff's opinion. So today, next slide, please. There's a TIP amendment that is ongoing and MTP amendment. Both are initiated. This is a schedule that the TPB action for the TIP amendment number 5 will be requested by this board on December TPB meeting. So next slide, please. So Unified Planning Program. Staff is working with Kdot on amending 2021 Unified Planning Work Program. The funding that this board approved for the UPWP in the beginning of this year, 2021, what changes occurred in the tasks and how the line items of tasks and the funding are changing, that will be updated, and staff is working with Kdot. And by next meeting, staff will report to you for an action item on 2021 amendment. And staff is also working on developing 2022 UPWP. As an example, UPWP is Unified Planning Work Program. As an example, our chairman, Commissioner Dennis, is advised us that safety is important on the transportation system. How can staff continue work on safety plan? So we set aside some budget in the UPWP to explore how can we have a consulting firm in the next year to study, develop a study for the safety plan for the region, the stuff like that. And what is upcoming in 2022, that also will be reported to you soon in the next upcoming month or so. So next slide, please. This slide shows a quarterly activity report on UPWP in your packets. This document, UPWP quarterly tasks, are from page 4 to 2022. Primarily this year, staff was busy in working on funding decisions, updating member jurisdictions on available funding, year-end balance, in coordination with Kansas Department of Transportation, and then also doing several amendments to TIP, like short-range transportation plan TIP amendments. So all those are documented in this, plus the preparation of RFPs for legal counsel. For example, the 3-year contract for the existing WAMPO is coming to end in this December 2021. So an additional 3-year contract is already on the website, having an RFP on the website. So we are right now, requesting proposals. If you have any, if you know anyone that is interested in submitting the proposals, you're welcome to let staff know, or anyone who is interested in submit. Those are in this packet at the moment. This quarterly report is July through September. The 6-month report was presented to you in the month of July, that is January to June. Now this documents everything until September. So next slide, please. Okay, let's go to slide before this. And that's all, Chairman. If you have any questions, happy to clarify.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on the report from Chad today? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is public comment. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak during public comment? We'll start within the room first. Anyone in the room? Seeing no one, is there anyone online that would like to speak during public comment today? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the next item. Next item deals with the year-end balance, some of the CRRSA money, I'd like to, before I turn it over to Nick, to make a couple comments about it. Nick's going to give us an update on where we're at today with that. But since the time when the TAC met to talk about this, we learned about transportation demand model that's going to cost $140,000 that we may want to make sure that we have funding for. In addition, there's been some concern about the funding levels that were proposed. If you take a look at what the TAC recommendations were, they were really not funding everything at the 100% level, or even at the 88% level. And I understand why they did that, because there's a couple projects that in year 2024 that they did want to have funding for. But as we've seen from the past, by 2024, hopefully there's some other funding coming in. And I don't see any reason to change our priorities on these, but there are some concerns at the Sedgwick County level, I know at the Wichita level, and some of the other organizations throughout Sedgwick County, that maybe we need to take a review of that. So what I'm going to ask today is to brief where we're at right now. I also know that I should have mentioned that Mays has another project that's come up that is possibly going to need to be placed into this priority listing because it's kind of hot right now. So I don't think we're ready to vote on it today. What we'll make a motion later on for is to defer this for a month until we can come back and make sure that we know exactly where we're at. But I think that I don't want to just skip it today. I want to make sure that Nick can give you a briefing on where we're at and where we're probably going. And then next month, hopefully we can take action. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nick.
Thank you, Chairman. You've summarized the situation pretty well, so there's not too much more for me to report right now. Just a quick reminder of the funding amounts under consideration here. These are the amounts that the Project Selection Committee was working with. The coronavirus funds in the amount of $3,789,097. 2020 HIP funds in the amount of $683,064. 2021 HIP funds $556,717. 2021 estimated year-end balance funds of $232,549.90, depending on final information from Kdot, and $803,100 that came as a result of a reduction in the size of the WAMPO Travel Demand Model Update project. Project Selection Committee met on the 24th of September and made their recommendations. Those were then forwarded to the Transportation Advisory Committee, which forwarded them to this body on the 27th. But as the commissioner stated just now, new information has been received from various project sponsors since then, that in consideration of which we do not we agree that it's best to not come to a decision at this time, and that we may or may not reconvene the Project Selection Committee to consider this new information, and so we do not have any funding awards for the TPB to vote on at this time.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Do anyone have any questions on where we're at right now with the project? Very good. I'll make a motion that we defer this until November. We let the WAMPO staff figure out if we need to reconvene any of the TAC or anyone else that needs to be involved in this, and hopefully we can have something come back to us in November. So that's my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have several seconds. We'll take Tom. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. We'll move on to item 4A, action plan methodology for scoring criteria. And Chad's going to brief that, I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it the slide for this? Let's see. The project evaluation methodology for Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program was existing before. Staff reviewed it. There were certain projects, for example, bridge projects and bike and pedestrian projects were all combined and evaluated before in one single list. So now staff what did was like, how can we make a structure so that the bridge projects are evaluated with the criteria and weighted scoring criteria on bridge projects, and new alignment and new projects, expansion projects are evaluated under its category. So there was more structure developed than before, and then this was discussed with members of the technical advisory committee as well. And this discussion occurred like 4 or 5 months in the past so that we are clear about how we are improving. The primary purpose of improving this methodology was how can we assist project selection committee to provide more robust data and information so that project selection committee is equipped with adequate data when time comes of selecting projects. So that's the intent of why this revision occurred. Now, staff is aware that not just the scoring criteria is adequate for selection of projects, it also needs judgment from the committee members as well. So it's a combination of the evaluation scoring criteria as well as judgment of project selection committee members. But staff is doing their best part to make it, best practices and make it better. So we compile the best practices that is observed in other MPOs in the nation, and then we have, we develop these criteria, and TAC had technical advisory committee. TAC has approved it. Now it is for the board to approve as recommended. Thank you.
Any questions from Chad? Okay, we have several actions on the board: approve, not approve, or make some changes. And the recommended action is to approve. Is there anyone that objects to taking the recommended action? Yes, Jack.
How did you come up with the weighting on this? Just out of curiosity.
The weightings criteria through discussions with the TAC members. Staff proposed and asked, are there any edits? Are there ways we can improve? There were some revisions made taking into account the input and advice provided by technical advisory committee as well. And these weightings can also be revised in the future to if we can improve more as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, I move that we approve the methodology as proposed.
Second.
We have a second by Troy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next is item 4C, update on Reimagine Move 2040 Amendment 1 by Nick.
Thank you. As you see, this information on this starts on page 46 in your packets. And just a quick note on page 49 in your packets, there is one small edit to a number in the last row of the last table on that page 49. But getting into the meat of it now, Kdot has requested an amendment to the WAMPO MTP to do the following things. First of all, to add 2 new projects to the MTP that are being funded through the Kansas IKE program, neither of which uses any WAMPO funding. One is on K96 between Hillside and Greenwich, expanding it from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. And the other is on K42 from the Sumner-Sedgwick County line up to the unincorporated community of Clonmel to rehabilitate and add shoulders. It seems I made a typo on this slide here. Both of them are in the 2020 to 2024 time band, not 2020 to 2040. And in addition to those 2 projects that are being added and therefore need formal amendments, they're also making administrative adjustments to some of the projects that constitute the North Junction project in the MTP, including removing of a redundant project that had been, so really correcting an error there, and also changing the description of one of the projects to be clearer about the meaning behind it. And this does not include any changes to WAMPO suballocated funding either. And the administrative adjustments do not increase total funding for the North Junction. The schedule that we have for this MTP amendment is a public comment period starting October 23rd, running through November 21st, with a special public meeting on the 29th of October, although we have not yet discussed what time that day the meeting will be. And then approval by the TAC on November 22nd and by the TPB on the 14th of December.
Thank you. Does anyone from Kdot want to speak to these? I know that the governor and the Secretary of Transportation were down a couple months ago and briefed on some of these projects, and we appreciate the support. And honestly, I think these are great requests. So I don't know if anyone from Kdot would like to speak before we.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I don't
have any this time.
Keep going forward. I'm getting some feedback. I hope you guys aren't hearing that.
Well, I think Nick did a good job explaining them. There's more administrative type items, but they're all good. They're both great projects moving forward.
Very good. And once again, we appreciate what Kdot's doing in this region on these 3 projects. So I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor. Did you have a question, Jack? No, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay. Next one is historical population, and Jordan's going to brief this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan. The census recently released the 2020 redistricting data from the decennial census. So that starts on page 53 of your packets. And so each one of the cities in the WAMPO region, there are 22 of them, we've compared both the size and the relative population to both Wichita and the region, along with a trend line of the population from as early as the 1900s. We did this for every city, and on our website, this report is on there and it's also interactive. So if you want to see the relative size of just Wichita or the region, you'd be able to do that. And we also have the comparison of everybody in the region as a whole, as you can see on that top one on page 78. So these are the relative size in population. And then the bottom one is sort of the interactive feature where you can exclude certain data to see the other 21 cities in the region and how they kind of compare. So then we also have this table at the end of the packet that kind of shows all of the population data from the census from the 1900s to 2020, along with the relative dates of incorporation per city that were in between those areas as well. And one of the things that WAMPO wants to do regarding this data is to confirm it with each of the cities to make sure that our numbers match up with your numbers as well. Thank you.
Okay. There's a lot more data than what was presented today, so make sure you go through your packet and see how each city was impacted with growth. And just one question, this came from the latest census data, correct?
Correct, the decennial census, yes.
Very good. Okay, well, this was just an update. Do we have any questions for Jordan? Seeing none, thanks. Take a look at that whole packet though, because there's a lot of information in there. He just kind of touched on the highlights. Okay, next item are some of our updates on the connections in the area. So I guess Chad's going to introduce Goddard for me.
We are pleased to have City of Goddard present today. This is, as you all know, this series, entire year 2021, Commissioner Dennis advised on how growth trends, and through this we have seen even the pride of cities and jurisdictions as well. It was eye-opening for many to learn each city. So today we have City of Goddard and County, Sedgwick County as well. So Micah Scoggins is here. Please, Micah, welcome.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me. My name is Micah Scoggin. I'm the Community Development Director, and I'm here to represent Goddard and its growth. Hopefully it'll be engaging, and feel free if you guys do have any questions to go ahead and just yell at me. I'm used to it working in the public sector, so feel free. Now, City of Goddard is probably going to have a lot of similar trends that a lot of the other smaller municipalities around the area have, but let's just go ahead and take a look at what some of those are real fast. So in 2008, we're looking at some parcels, some historic parcel data. I got a lot of this from Sedgwick County GIS, so most of this information is going to be relatively accurate. 2008, we saw general growth coming, and obviously 2007, 2008, we had the market crash, subprime mortgage market crash. But after that, we saw a decline and then a quick increase. And so between that and 2021, we saw a lot of residential growth. And that's obviously not necessarily unique to Goddard, but we did see a large majority of our development be residential development. In just the recent last 3 years, between 2018 and 2021, we had about 545 units come online with some developments that were platted. And we're seeing a lot more entering our queue, which is going to be the review process from the Planning Commission.
What do you need?
Or just, go ahead. You can ask me a question. Or not, I'll move on. But a lot of it, like I said, is residential growth. Looking at a 15-minute drive time of Goddard is somewhat pivotal, because we're not just going to be looking at Goddard itself, but we're looking at the surrounding areas that are influencing Goddard and those that are coming to the Goddard School District. So for one thing, the 15-minute drive time, if you were going to look between 2000 and 2020, everything that was built from 2000 and before is in blue. And then as you drag it across, you're going to see between 2000 and 2020, the developments that happened there. And if we were to zoom in closer on those developments, you'll see a large part of that is going to be residential. So you have a lot of unplatted land, a lot of private farm ownership that gets sold to developers who didn't develop it. A large part of that is going to be single family detached and residential. And as you drag it across, you can see a lot of it is going to be infill as well, which we're more than happy to have. So if we're going to look at some key population trends, obviously, once again, we're still looking at a 15-minute drive time, but that 15-minute drive time, if you zoom in on Goddard itself, you're going to see that a lot of it is still reflective. This is more of a macro scale, and we'll zoom in a little bit closer and look at Goddard at a more micro scale. but obviously historic population trends are just going up and up. This is across the state, both obviously, as you know, for not only the state, but the county as well. And then of course in Goddard and the surrounding municipalities. We're seeing that the greatest generation is on the decline, of course, which we appreciated their service. And then of course it moves into baby boomers, Gen X, millennials are spiking, and then Gen Z, and then the alpha generation of those of you who don't know are the younger generation. So Z, then A, pretty standard trend there. And we're seeing an increase in that, largely because, of course, we're going to see that it's going to be the school districts that are a huge economic driver, especially for the surrounding area. So when you look at these Tapestry segmentation, this is going to be basically, if you look at demographic groups, they try to lump them together based on basic social economic characteristics. The largest one being Workday Drive. They used to call this soccer moms, and now they switched to Workday Drive. So I hope that's more palatable for most of you. Workday drivers are the ones that are leading the largest charge in terms of the demographics for the area, especially not just in Goddard, but the surrounding 15-minute drive time. And I imagine for most of the other suburbs around Wichita as well. Largely, like I said, because of the school district. Then you have Green Acres and comfortable empty nesters. A lot of these are people that have seen their kids go to school and have graduated or currently have kids in school, and not just being the alpha generation, which are going to be, elementary school, but also middle school and high school. They're the largest driving force around the area. So yes, can't mention Goddard without mentioning our school district. Obviously, we're saying that we rank number 2, depending on a certain niche website, but obviously opinions vary, so I don't want to offend anybody for wherever you're graduating from, but I'm going to have to go ahead and say, go Goddard, go Tigers, go Lions. But obviously schools is a huge driving factor, and we continue to see that growth happening in recent conversations with the school district about how they want to expand, how they want to see their growth be taken into account for future buildings, for future land acquisitions. So that's something that has to be taken into account as well. Business, so we see a lot of it going to be basically services, real estate, education, of course. This is the largest factors that are the largest market sectors that are being influenced in the area. Not exactly a shocker there, obviously. Like I said, we have huge school district, we have a lot of real estate development, we have a lot of services that want to accommodate these people. So that is a pretty standard trend. Obviously, with COVID, a lot of things have changed. We're going to probably see a lot more coming in terms of white collar development, in terms of white collar services, because as other telecom companies begin to market more of the rural area, and then that rural area is annexed by municipalities as we go outwards, more and more people will be working remotely, and we'll see some of these sectors start to change a little bit as we move forward into the new year and into the new decade. So commuter profile, nothing too shocking there. Obviously, people want to drive. Less people want to walk, less people want to bike. We don't have any public transportation currently, being a smaller municipality. Something to just take into account. Obviously, carpooling has increased slightly, which is beneficial, but what we're going to see is that most people, of course, are going to be driving to work alone, solo, but I'm curious to see how this commute changes, especially for other municipalities as well, not just Goddard, with, as I mentioned, telecommunication being on the rise, and of course, remote work. So that's going to be something to take into account. And how can the city of Goddard accommodate that? And we are currently working towards accommodating more and more telecommunication work. So, and on top of that, just to sort of shout out to some of our developments, we do have our Goddard Genesis well underway. We have a Hampton coming into place as well, which is in tandem with the Goddard Genesis. We have our baseball diamonds up and running, which recently had a summer ball showdown, which was a large driving force. We saw a lot of cities and also other states coming into Goddard to go to our summer ball showdown, which is great. We had our Brahms up and running, and we have our new veterinary clinic, which has just been approved through Planning Commission. And as mentioned, our residential development is on the rise. Recent studies showed that we had something around 28% of available residential zoning for development, and now it's down to about 24. So as soon as we publish any static information like percentages of developable land, sooner or later I just get a lot more building permits, and then just all of a sudden becomes obsolete the next day. So we are just continually growing seeing a continual growth of residential, which is of course following the residential, you're going to see the commercial, and that commercial growth is continuing to be capitalized on. So that basically sums up my presentation. Do you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, derogatory remarks? Feel free to just send them my way, and I'll be happy to hopefully accommodate them.
Any questions for Micah?
I just have a comment, Mr. Chair. I appreciate your comments and appreciate your growth, but I have to say, go Eagles, go Mustangs.
Well received. Thank you.
I have one question. I liked your slide where you slid across and showed where the growth was at.
Sure.
Did GIS do that for you, or who did that?
I did that. Basically, what you have here, most of this information comes from an ArcGIS Online account. We also have an ArcGIS Business Analyst account. But ArcGIS Online has certain studios and certain applications that you can use. And so when you look at ArcGIS Online, for example, you can host services on a web platform. I don't need to go into all the details. It's ArcGIS Online. Yeah, I just do it. That's part of my technical proficiencies that they leverage at the City of Goddard. So.
Well, the reason I ask is because we're all going through redistricting right now, and we're having to move populations back and forth, and it's kind of handy to be able to see where the growth has been happening, so that as we go through redistricting, we know where it's going on, and we can come up with maybe some better ideas of how to redistrict. That was just what went through my mind when I saw this slide.
Yeah, certainly. It's all available on ArcGIS Online if you have the technical proficiencies, and I'm sure WAMPO and Nick and Chad will be able to explain that more in more detail. I'm sure they can leverage it themselves. So, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, Mike, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And you do have some great school districts. I just saw an article in the newspaper the other day that rated the top school districts, and you are in the top 5.
Yes, and
you're not almost there. I live in your school district, so I would go beyond that.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get, and obviously school districts drive residential, which drives commercial in turn, which then drives industrial. So it all works in tandem. Thank you.
I figured Richard Lemunion would tell us who number 1 was, but he didn't.
I didn't want to say anything.
But I appreciate that. Yeah. Spare my feelings.
Chart.
Thank you, Micah. Can the ArcGIS information be sent to us in a link that we can review it?
What information would you like to see specifically? This presentation?
Thing, yeah.
The whole thing.
It was amazing that you were showing us in the ArcGIS. I kind of wrote it down, the storymaps.arcgis.com.
Yeah, so
the rest of it.
Absolutely. So story maps, so ArcGIS Online and story maps, all of it's hosted online through ArcGIS. So they have a large database. Obviously, ArcGIS is a monopoly, in case you guys wonder. It's ESRI, Environmental Science Research Institute. They're the largest GIS in data manufacturing. I don't know if it's the world, but certainly in the US and North America by far. We leverage it because obviously it's the best, I would say by far, one of the best platforms. There's a lot of free platforms out there, Quantum GIS and what have you. ArcGIS by far is one of the best. You can host them online, and so you can put a hyperlink and then share it in an email or however you want to do it on a website or any other type of related platform, whatever you prefer. This one I can share with you. You'll probably run into a couple of technical issues because it's going to ask you to log in. You can just cancel, and you'll be able to view the data. Either that, or I can make it more static if you prefer, but I'm sure you probably want a more dynamic one because you want to do the links and then be able to swipe back and forth, etc. I will tell you what, I will send it to Chad how about, and Chad can distribute it to everybody else. Once it's been a little bit more refined and maybe some of those technical errors that might come up if somebody else tries to log in. So I can, how about I just send it to Chad? He'll distribute it accordingly.
That's wonderful.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
All right, guys, anything else?
Any other questions? Yes, Mayor.
So, Micah, thank you.
Still have my job? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you still have a job. Thank you so much. I wanted to add one thing. Goddard is in a weird position in growth. We don't have enough homes in order to have commercial growth. So since I've been on the council and I beat it into Micah every single day, that we have to have a certain rooftop density in a 3-mile radius in order for commercial retail development to happen. And so we're starting off with residential. We plan on having probably another 600 homes moving in the next 2 to 3 years.
Absolutely.
And permits getting pulled. So Goddard's going to look substantially different just here in the next few years. So I'm excited, and thank you, Micah.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. And if we can get the Northwest bypass in, it'll help both Goddard and Mays. So my plug. Okay, let's move on. Lynn Packer is walking up front, so I guess we're going to have Sedgwick County briefing. Welcome, Lynn.
All right, I'm going to start off by saying that I am not using ArcGIS Online, so please temper your expectations accordingly. Okay, Micah came up and did a great presentation on their land use and their growth out there. And many of the cities that have come up here and talked before me have also talked about their similar growth and the developments they're having. For us in the unincorporated county, it's a little bit different. So although we do have developments throughout the county, the cities are the primary drivers of those developments. So this presentation is a little more skewed toward our infrastructure coming from a public works standpoint. According to the latest data from the Census Bureau in 2018, we have 259,000 people employed in Sedgwick County. We have 76% of them, or about 197,000, that live and work in the county, and 24%, or about 62,000, that commute into the county for work. We also have about 40,000 residents who commute outside the county for work on a daily basis. Back in 2002, there was about 75% of Sedgwick County residents lived and worked within the WAMPO region. Overland Park, Topeka, and Hutchinson were the largest out-of-region employment destinations. Jump forward to 2018 with our most recent data, and we're down to about 70% of the county working residents that work within the region. It's only in the last 10 years, really, that the job destinations really have changed. Kansas City is now a top 10 destination, as is Mays, and they replaced Valley Center and Goddard in the top 10 list. I do have to say, though, I do wonder how much of this is actual commute time or those who are working from home and claiming an address in Kansas City as their headquarters address or so when they answer census type questions. Overall, though, we still have just under 200,000 people, working county residents, traveling within the region to work. And as you can see through what we just talked about, there's significant commuting, not only locally, but regionally and beyond. A lot of people will credit Wichita for the largest employers out there, and I just thought I'd take the opportunity to note that Spirit Aerosystems, Textron, and McConnell are all in unincorporated Sedgwick County, and we have 3 of the 6 largest employers in the county. They total about 22,000 full-time employees. So with almost 525,000 residents in Sedgwick County and 259,000 working here, we get a lot of travel on our roads. In fact, Sedgwick County roads carry over 1.5 million vehicle miles per day. And that's based on actually 2018 data. That data is being updated right now, but that's our most recent as of 2018. We maintain 609 miles of road and 603 bridge structures. I will say that we maintain more bridge structures than any other jurisdiction in the state of Kansas, with the exception of Kdot themselves. County Public Works maintains over 14,500 traffic signs and object markers, as well as 32 traffic signals. So in our 2022-2026 CIP, we're planning on spending $52 million for road maintenance and $22 million for bridge repairs and maintenance. We have $23 million that supports enhancements to the infrastructure, $10 million that supports expansion, which is going to be, that's going to be really the Northwest bypass right away that we're committing funds to. And we have $2 million committed for quality of place. That would be like bike paths, parks, spaces, that kind of infrastructure. Our recent projects that we have taken on are several bike paths projects, actually multi-use path projects. We have recently completed these milestone multi-use pathways in southeastern Sedgwick County. Those would be projects that have connected the pathway system in Mulvane with Derby. That was via multi-path, an off-road multi-path youth on Rock Road. My fancy GIS map, again, lower expectations. This path not only connects cyclists and pedestrians between the two cities, but also provides them direct access to the Derby's new dog and ballpark, Tokarski Park, which is located just north of 95th Street South along Rock Road. We also constructed a new multi-use path along Rock Road from O'Connell Air Force Base to the Wichita city limits in Oak Knoll. And this connected pedestrians from base housing on the east side of Rock Road across the street from the base to local businesses up north along Rock Road and beyond. We also recently just finished our aviation pathway projects. These were started at Patriot Avenue and Buckner and Derby. We worked our way up to 47th Street, then headed west across K15 into the Oaklawn area. And then we connected down to the rec center and the school down off of Clifton, and also up to MacArthur Road in Wichita. This was constructed in 3 phases that started in 2016. With its completion, the multi-vein pathway now connects all the way up to Wichita's. So we've talked about building down a Rock Road between Mulvane and Derby, and then Derby up to Wichita. So we've got Mulvane all the way down. Pedestrians and cyclists can travel from Mulvane up to Chapin Park in South Wichita without ever having to leave a dedicated multi-use path. We have some other projects that we have done related to the pedestrian access. And one of those projects was the Meridian pedestrian bridge, which you guys might remember back in 2019. That was actually a WAMPO project that was revived thanks to an opportunity with funding that presented itself. And that's a key bridge there. It's a pedestrian link between Hayesville and Wichita. And I'm also very proud to stand up here and tell you that in 2020, we received the Wichita Society of Professional Engineers Project of the Year for that particular project. As far as road projects, Sedgwick County has enjoyed a lot of really growth spurt of sorts in industrial parks that have considerable development that's been going on. We recently completed improvements to 167th Street West and 61st Street North in Colwich to support the ICM Elements biofuels plant. In 2023 and 2024, we will make additional improvements to 151st Street West and the east side of 61st Street North to provide safer access to and from K96. Next year, we will be constructing the improvements on 95th Street South, adjacent to the Clearwater Business Park. And that's due to increased truck traffic related to the Plains Cotton Cooperative Association's baled cotton warehouse. They are already actually actively working that site now and have, as far as I know, have improvements, plans to expand. We also have plans to reconstruct portions of 135th Street West and 53rd Street North near the Maze Industrial Park that will increase lane capacity and prepare for the increased heavy truck traffic on those roads. Additionally, Sedgwick County is partnering with Kdot and the city of Wichita, which I think everyone here is very much aware of, to construct improvements to the North Junction. 2 of the 4 projects for North Junction are already under construction now, and the 3rd project is slated to begin actually next year. So that's moving along quite well. We continue partnering with Kdot, Goddard, and Maze to advance the Northwest Bypass project to the final design phases by funding right-of-way acquisition. That is actually the proposed layout that is out there in the planning stages for the Northwest Bypass. Sedgwick County and Kdot have committed up to $1 million each year for right-of-way, and that's with additional funding coming from Mays and Goddard as well. We've been improving pedestrian access in the southeast part of the county the past few years, but we do plan to also work with Wichita and Goddard to improve pedestrian access between these two cities. A multi-use path is planned along Maple Street between 167th, Maple, excuse me. It's along Maple and 167th that will not only connect the Wichita and Goddard cities, but it will provide pedestrian access from the various neighborhoods in that area to the Eisenhower School Complex. That's there. That school complex is located on 167th south of Maple. And finally, we do have 3 bridge projects that are coming up. Our bike paths are not the only projects that improve regional connections. These upcoming projects ensure safe and efficient travel between our cities. 3 of our big ones are those that are shown here. And we have, we plan to reconstruct the 600-foot long bridge down by Clearwater over the Ninneskah, it's on 151st over the Ninneskah River in 2023. And then we have a 500-foot long bridge between Derby and Wichita on 63rd Street South over the Ark River. And that will get a much needed rehabilitation on that bridge in 2025. Our most notable bridge project for purposes of this discussion, and it's probably going to be our most watched project, is the planned bridge project that will rehabilitate the Zoo Boulevard Bridge over the floodway in 2023. That again is a WAMPO project. This bridge is the main entry point into Wichita, Northwest Wichita, and the work will affect over 25,000 vehicles a day. It will impact traffic on Zoo Boulevard, 13th Street, Ridge Road, 235, and 96. So I'm not going to tell you that all of our projects are regional connections and apply to that, but as you can see here, a lot of them do. We have, we're the underlying unit of government that really can justify supporting the needs of all the jurisdictions in the county. We recognize that all the taxpayers, whether they're in the incorporated cities or unincorporated county, they support county functions and operations. And we, in part, continuously return that support to projects like those we've just discussed right here. Most of the agencies that have already presented on the regional connections have noted how people migrate in and out of the city, a lot of them out of city for work. But the average person really doesn't recognize that Sedgwick County is providing that critical infrastructure that allows that commute. I thought this was very interesting. 20% of Hayesville commuters travel to Derby, Valley Center, Clearwater, and Rose Hill. 5% of Mays' commuters head to Valley Center, Derby, Goddard, and Park City. And we have a similar number of Goddard commuters that travel to Mays, Valley Center, Derby, and Park City. Put simply, we understand our role in the region, and with projects like those we just talked about here, that really it just ensures everyone is well served all throughout the county and the region. And I can't stress this enough. We're very fortunate at the county level to have elected officials, the county commission that understands the role that infrastructure plays in this region, and they provide us the resources that allow us to serve this entire region all together. And if there are any questions, I will stand for those.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions for Lynn? I don't see any right now, but just to toot our own horn a little bit, when he told us we had over 600 bridges and we were the #1 in the state of Kansas, what he didn't say is we're the #3 in the entire United States for the number of bridges that we maintain here in Sedgwick County. So that's kind of a stat that a lot of people don't recognize. Sedgwick County is pretty flat. They got a lot of little creeks and so forth and rivers and such. And so we have a lot of bridges. The other thing that he didn't mention is that we provide a lot of opportunities for people if they want to bike or walk also. If you go over to Sedgwick County Park, we've got all kinds of trails over there that you can bike and walk on. And if you get real energetic while you're over there, you can just jump on to Zoo Boulevard, runs into 21st Street, and you can go all the way out to Cheney Lake because we widened 21st Street in order to be able to provide a bike path heading all the way out that direction. So that's beside all of the other paths that he talked about that we've already put in. And we're partnering with the city of Wichita in order to take a look at that Maple Street in order to be able to get folks, especially getting into the new schools over in Goddard so that they can get into that area safely, because we don't have, we have kids that are actually walking down busy streets right now that we really truly need some paths over in that area. So I appreciate everything that our public works does, and I always have to make sure that I praise what they do, because they work very hard in order to take care of our county. So thank you, Lynn. Appreciate it. I think if I'm not mistaken, Chad, that was the last update from all organizations. So you now had an opportunity to see each and every city in this region, in the WAMPO region, give their presentations, and the city, including the city of Wichita and Sedgwick County. So I appreciate everyone that came in and did the presentations, because this is the way that as we're making decisions on what the priorities are as we move forward on funding WAMPO, that we have a view of what the entire region needs. So thank you for everyone that came and presented those. I know it took a little bit of effort, but I appreciate it.
Mr. President, I wonder if how often we want to do this. It was probably the best presentations I've had since I've been on WAMPO, at least in the aspect of it bringing us together and letting us understand. So I wonder how often we might want to do this. Maybe not every year, but something.
I agree. We probably need updates in the future. We've just gone through this whole thing. We probably don't need anything for the next year. As I'll still be the chairman in another year, so maybe towards the end of my term, we'll be able to pick this up again. So thank you for the suggestion. Okay, we'll move on to committee updates. The executive committee did not meet this month, so my update is pretty short. But we'll move on to active transportation. And Alan, I know you're in the audience. Do you have anything you'd like to brief today?
Nothing significant. Our next meeting is December 1 at 9:30. We're doing pretty much the same thing that we've been doing here, going through the different jurisdictions, hearing their plans and their bike pedestrian facilities. So we'd love to have additional participation. Love to have you participate in that. So I think Chad will have information about that later. So that you can join those. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Next, Kdot. I think Tom Hine I saw was on Zoom. Tom, are you on there?
I am. My report will be brief in the spirit of keeping this down to a 1-hour meeting. We have 9 active projects right now, but 6 of them, luckily, will be completed in either October, November, or possibly into December. So we'll be down to just a few highway projects in December over the winter. Many of those are multi-year projects like the North Junction. But hey, the green project on I-235 finishes next month. So great news there.
Super. Any questions for Tom? Seeing none, we'll move on to Kdot. And I saw Mike Moriarty was on. Michael, can you hear me? Brent, would you like to give us an update?
Sure. I know Mike was having some microphone problems earlier, so he might still be having those issues. I want to say thanks for everybody who participated in the local consult. There's a lot of work put together, everything that needs to be presented what we need to represent for everybody to look at and consider, not only for WAMPO, but the other all 18 counties in District 5. So it's a good mix of projects. The only one I saw in this region seemed to be a little bit unsure of was the Wichita I-235 Zoo Boulevard interchange. What that project was seemed to be unknown. It's a bridge replacement, add proper acceleration, deceleration lanes up on the main line. So that was the only one out of our list of group that our group did not have an idea what it was. So anyway, I want to say thanks for everybody who participated. I think it went pretty well, and rollout from that will be coming soon.
Thank you, Michael. You have anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you. I fell off the audio there for a second. Yeah, so we had about 100 people participate in the Wichita event. So I thought that was a very nice turnout. We had a lot of project conversations, very unique. I know we talked about this during the local consult session. Having the Heartland Flyer on the list with the other expansion projects, that's a first for us, having a passenger rail or a non-road project on that list. So I think that's pretty exciting. I know we noted and appreciated the conversations about ARC 95 as well. And there was a lot of sentiment that that project should be on the project list as well. And I checked in with the local consult team earlier today, and we are expecting to see summaries being posted from all of the events in the coming weeks. We actually wrapped up last week with District 3 in Northwest Kansas, so we're just now starting to create those summaries of each of the local consult sessions.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Secretary Lorenz was in town Friday, and I told her that I was a little leery about having a Zoom meeting to make sure that we could get our concerns addressed, but I thought it was fantastic. The folks at Kdot listened to everything we said. They were ready. I was very surprised at how quick they turned everything around that day. So I want to congratulate you all, just as I congratulated Secretary Lorenz Friday when I talked to her. Thank you. Next, we'll move over to the Fed side. Rick Buckland, I think I saw you were on.
Yes,
There he
Rick
is.
Buckland here. Yes, thanks. Just a couple of updates. First off, probably the most significant one is, as you all should be aware, the FAST Act was due to expire on September 30th. We do have an extension of highway trust funding and our ability to work until the 31st of October. So we're still in the process of seeing when we will get a reauthorization, which is anticipated to be 5 years with an infrastructure bill. So we're getting the news as much as you all are. So stay tuned for that. I do want to thank you all for your work on the MPO 2021 freight assessment. I know that you all worked with Cecily Cochran. Much appreciated. And that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Any questions? I don't see any right now. Thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it. Also in the package, you'll see that there are a couple upcoming committee meetings. Safety and Health Committee is Wednesday, November the 3rd at 9:30 a.m. and Active Transportation is Wednesday, December 1st at 9:30. Oh, Chad, do we have any other business today? Does anyone have anything else? Seeing nothing, we are adjourned. Thank you all.